Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only, Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic Rush Adventure for the Nintendo DS. So, last time, we essentially did manage to tackle through all 7 of those Soul Emerald missions, and as a result, so far we actually did those no problem, even though despite the fact that certain hidden levels are pretty tough for the most part, especially with the forms of both Hidden Island 8 as well as Hidden Island 12. But that's besides the point. So today, for this video, is that, ladies and gentlemen, as you can tell, since that we've somehow accidentally triggered a cutscene of any sorts, and as a result, something tells me about the fact that it looks like we ended up in a true finale of our Let's Play of Sonic Rush Adventure. So because of that, and this particular cutscene only triggers if not only you've somehow collected all 7 Chaos Emeralds, but also all 7 Soul Emeralds. So as a result, similar to the forms of how it does it in Sonic Rush, that will actually allow us to able to actually access to the extra zone, in some cases the true finale of this whole entire game. So before we get into more details about the forms of the extra zone as far as this is concerned, we have to go through so many text boxes here and there, which as a result, then again, I was expecting to try to able to read any of the dialogue, but as a result, like I said before, I'm not very great at reading skills, unlike Twilight Sparkle, that's the thing. So anyways though, while on the subject for this point for that matter, that today's date of course there is the 24th of July today, in some cases in 2024 today, so potentially speaking though, for those of you who lived in the European countries, obviously though, happy 15th anniversary of the game's release of Wii Sports Resort, specifically the UK version. So because of that though, while looking back on it though, I still find that to be a really enjoyable time, but unfortunately though, I no longer have the game anymore, mainly because as far as I'm aware, that Wii Sports might be good enough for me, specifically the original Wii Sports to me, especially because I was expecting to try to go for the ultimate challenge by going through every single achievement in Wii Sports Resort. Like, some of them are actually kind of easy, but the majority of them are pretty difficult, I have to be honest here, especially because no matter what though, I still managed to able to really enjoy not only the returning sports like golf, as well as the forms of bowling as well. And in addition to that though, I also do enjoy new sports ranging from archery, as well as the forms of swordplay, because swordplay is definitely the highlight in terms of while looking back on Wii Sports Resort, among all others as well, like air sports, alongside with the forms of power cruising, and much more that I can probably think about on top of my head. So it looks like about the fact that what has been going on in terms of the forms of the situation has been going on, well, as a result, you know how the fact that we did somehow retrieve ourselves the actual Jeweled Scepter after defeating the forms of Ghost Titan, and as a result that was taking place in Journey forms of Big Swell. Well, apparently though, the Jeweled Scepter has been stolen again. So no matter what though, it's not gonna be Captain Whisker or anything else like that, because technically we've already beaten Captain Whisker after all. So, and it's, as far as I'm aware, we've already taken care of Johnny as well, likely also for all the other races, and in addition to that with the boss battle and stuff like that. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that maybe somebody else was actually responsible for this particular, you know, trying to able to actually steal something a little bit more precious. So, but let's not get ahead of ourselves at this point right about now. So relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that there's also another thing I would like to mention about this actually, even though it's been 3 days ago since about the fact that, did you guys know that Pikmin 4 has already became 1 year old already? Which, while looking back on it though, actually I'll explain more about that in a moment, because it looks like we have ourselves yet another cutscene right here. Oh snap, it's Dr. Eggman who is responsible for able to actually try to take over for this particular whole plan all along. So, and in fact, no matter what though, Eggman did clearly said to Sonic, long time no see. So, no matter what though, that was clearly unexpected, especially concerning for the fact that obviously though we've already did manage to able to taking care of Captain Whisker alongside with the forms of Johnny as well during the course of in Pirates Island. So, yeah. It seems kind of weird to be able to see Eggman in the end game rather than just at the beginning portion of the game, unlike Sonic Rush, where basically Eggman did somehow showed up in the beginning portion of Sonic Rush. So yeah, it seems kind of interesting for the actual plot twist for the sake of the forms of how that's going to turn out. So anyway though, and as far as I'm aware, while looking back on Pikmin 4 after about a year ago right about now, despite the fact I still haven't exactly gone back into that game for quite a while, mainly because as far as I'm aware, I still need to able to actually practice the forms of certain controls, as well as the open world kind of exploration to deal with. In addition to that though, with certain mechanics worked, and as far as I'm aware, that it seems kind of weird about the fact that Pikmin 4 had not yet received the entire DLC, which I was assuming they'll try to able to actually bring DLC, but something tells me about the fact that Pikmin 3, as far as I'm aware, is the only Pikmin game in the series to able to actually receive DLC, at least to be more specifically the Wii U version, despite the fact that, well, you probably already know about the fact that it's no longer possible to able to actually get, well, the rest of the DLC on Pikmin 3, because, you know, the eShop is dead and all. So, I digress. So, anyways though, aside from all that stuff though, it's just mainly because about the fact that I was been busy playing too much of Mario stuff, as you probably would expect, especially because I'm still waiting for the next Mario game to be released. That's of course not only Super Mario Party Jamboree, but also Mario Luigi Brothership, and honorable mention for the likes of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, so that way we can able to actually play the game on the go again, except this time on the Nintendo Switch basically. So, and oh, look who it is. We also have ourselves Eggman Nega as well. So it looks like about the fact that much like in Sonic Rush, it looks like both Eggman and Eggman Nega are both about able to team up to try to conquer the world, or to be more specifically, for the forms of Blaze's dimension. So because of that though, yeah, we're gonna have to stop them both before it's too late. So, as a matter of fact though, it's about the fact that they're trying to plan for something. So, but I digress. So, there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well, is about the fact that when it comes to forms of other stuff worth noting for, that recently, SC or SVC Chaos SNK vs Capcom has recently came out on a Nintendo Switch recently, ever since 2 days ago. So, yeah, that was very unexpected either, especially concerning for the fact that it used to be released on not only on Xbox, as well as PlayStation 2, and even on the arcade machines as well. So relatively speaking, it was about the fact that not only does that game finally get its release on, not only on Nintendo Switch, for what I've heard, that you can able to play the game on the go, and on top of that, the PlayStation 4 version, as far as I've also heard about it as well, but usually relatively speaking though, it has been about quite a few days since I actually have mentioned something related to the forms of that particular crossover games has recently came out on modern systems at this point. So yeah, that seems pretty cool though. So, and also as far as I'm aware is about the fact that when it comes to the forms of Gamescom, as far as I can definitely tell right from the start as well, that we already know about the fact that Sega is going to be a part of the forms of Gamescom once again, and I think no matter what though, it's going to take place in during the forms of on the 21st of August, all the way up to the 25th of August, at least as far as I can recall. So I'm basically more excited able to know of what specific reveals they're trying to able to actually show us when it comes to the forms of Gamescom. So anyway, and also as far as I'm aware about the fact that no matter what though, unfortunately though, one of those artists, specifically Brett Jones, who able to actually did the artist for both GoldenEye 007 as well as Perfect Dark on the N64, he sadly passed away, which as a result, it's very sad indeed, especially concerning for the fact that he did a remarkable job when it comes to like looking back on him for the actual artistic department, at least to be more specifically, when it comes to both GoldenEye 007 as well as Perfect Dark on the N64, and relatively speaking, he did a really dang good job when it comes to the, trying to deal with the artistic department. So, but I digress. So, as a matter of fact though, it's about the fact that it looks like out of nowhere that I do notice about the fact that recently that Splatoon 3 has recently announced something out of nowhere, and actually as it turns out, we're about to be getting a yet another Splatfest, to be more specifically, until September, which as a result to marks the 2nd anniversary of the game's release of Splatoon 3. So no matter what though, they've divided into 3 teams, just like before, and no matter what though, this time around though, it's going to be involved around the important aspect to year department, ranging from past, present, and future. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that, yeah, that's as far as I can try to explain about it. And as far as I'm aware, is that the Grand Festival is also going to be on its way as well, and I believe that's going to be approaching until the 13th of September all the way up to the 16th of September, at least according to the forms of the actual specific date I did somehow manage to find out. So anyway, and also as far as I'm aware about the fact that you probably already noticed ever since in yesterday when it comes to looking back on Mario Kart Tour again, when it comes to likely about the fact that yes indeed I did manage to able to grind as many of those coins as much as I can, alongside with the forms of red rubies as well, because no matter what though, is about the fact that I think this will be the final time to able to actually decide able to actually race onto the forms of Piranha Plant Pipeline, because as far as I'm aware, the next tour we're about to be jump right into is that we're going back onto the forms of that familiar tour ever since in Journey forms within a year ago, which involves around we're going into, I would say, from the likes of the forms of Daisy Cruiser, because as far as I'm aware is about the fact that when it comes to the forms of the highlight and all that stuff. So, mind you about the fact that it has been about quite a while since I actually have mentioned something relates to Mario Kart Tour, but either way. So, as you can tell, we're going on to, technically speaking though, the final vehicle we can able to actually interact with. Mind you, it's autopilot, so as a result, we can able to dive right into the final zone in the whole entire game. And apparently though, we are all too late, as a matter of fact, because it looks like about the fact that both Dr. Eggman and Eggman NECA now got their hands on the forms of Jeweled Scepter. So no matter what though, how do we supposed to able to defeat them? Well, if you ask me about the fact that since after all we've already collected all of these Chaos Emeralds alongside with the Soul Emeralds as you probably already expect, something tells me about the fact that much like in Sonic Rush, that we might able to actually turn into not only Supersonic but as well as Burning Blaze once again. Except this time it's going to take place in a different environment, so it's no longer going to be on time paradox kind of thing, so instead it's going to take place in the underground somewhere in Journey forms of the specific deep core. So no matter what though, it kind of reminds me of the forms of the similar vibes as in just a year before Sonic Unleashed exists, whenever you do manage to able to face off against with the true final boss in that game, which appears to be Dark Gaia Phoenix. So no matter what though, is about the fact that it kind of reminds me of that, except the fact that obviously though we don't turn into a werehog, thank goodness for that. And in addition to that, Chip does not exist until Sonic Unleashed in 2008, so I can expect about the forms of some similarities when it comes to two of those Sonic games in like 1 year apart. So, at least as far as I can resume for this point. So anyway, And also I just realized about something, is about the fact that, do you guys even remember that I mentioned about this briefly, about the fact that yes indeed that Knuckles the series is going to be getting its DVD and Blu-ray release? Well, as a matter of fact, that the 8 rating board actually gets revealed in the UK version, and unlike in both Sonic the Hedgehog 1 as well as Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movies, that are basically they're all rated in PG, well, Knuckles apparently though is going to be receiving 12, so yeah, it seems a bit weird, especially concerning for the fact that, well, obviously though it will able to actually contain more language and stuff like that, and also as far as I'm aware, it does manage to able to come with the forms of specific bonus features, which as a result, unfortunately though, I don't suppose I can probably talk about it right now. Maybe in another time I will, but for now, it looks like about the fact that it's time to able to turn into not only Supersonic, but as well as Burning Blaze, and hopefully we should able to actually stop not only Dr. Eggman, but also Eggman Nega for the second time, and hopefully we should able to retrieve our jeweled scepter back again. So let's bring all of the Chaos Emeralds and Soul Emeralds. And I found it a little bit strange is that unlike in Sonic Rush, where it just simply shows us 3 different camera perspectives when it comes to both Supersonic and Burning Blaze, in here though, basically the camera decides able to turn all the way around just to see at different angles of both Supersonic and Burning Blaze. So, with that being said folks, it's about the fact that unlike in Sonic Rush, in specifically Exception level, basically though we can only take control of one character at a time, depending on what phase you go into. Like for instance, Sonic is the only one who can able to take on Dr. Eggman, meanwhile for Burning Blaze, can able to actually take on Eggman Nega, in journey forms of, you know, taking turns and stuff like that. Well, in here though, in journey forms of the extra zone known as Deep Core, and it looks like the true final boss in the game is actually known as the Egg Wizard. So, get it about the fact that, you know, wizards can able to actually perform magic and stuff like that, so that's besides the point. So, yeah, basically, much like the forms of how it does it on any other Supersonic final boss fights, obviously though, we always have to make sure we need to collect the insane amount of rings as we could, because if your ring count reaches to 0, obviously though, you have to restart the entire battle all over again, and on top of all that stuff though, you will lose a life. So, basically though, this is how this boss battle plays out. Basically though, you can able to actually take control of not only Supersonic, but also Burning Blaze simultaneously by simply able to actually press one of those corresponding buttons, and as a result you can able to actually switch between both Supersonic or Burning Blaze depending on certain situations. Although fundamentally speaking, it's about the fact that when it comes to Supersonic in the forms of this particular game this time around, that as you can tell, that he can still able to actually dash for a bit just in case you can able to actually grab certain rings easily, but as you can tell, he can now able to actually perform a specific slash attack, and meaning about the fact that you can able to actually reflect the actual projectiles right back at the forms of Egg Wizard. So, it might take a bit while to able to get enough hits on him though, but I will say though is about the fact that this is without a doubt is the harder fight compared to the forms of how it does on most bosses in Sonic Rush Adventure. Well, including with the forms of one of the bosses in Sky Babylon, and as far as Burning Blaze as far as I'm concerned, she plays pretty similar to the forms of how it does it back in Sonic Rush in Exception Zone, where basically though is about the fact that you can able to actually charge up your fireball projectile attack right back at the forms of Egg Wizard. So yeah, that's basically how this goes basically. So either way though, and it looks like I'm not doing very great at this boss fight, I'm afraid, because relatively speaking though, I have to deal with a lot of muscle memory to able to try to figure out how to deal with the entire boss fight itself. Because sometimes I will admit it though right away is that this particular boss battle itself feels a bit too chaotic sometimes. So, but either way, hopefully for the second attempt I'll do a little bit better than the first attempt, but that's just mainly because, then again, I do need to bring up a muscle memory to able to actually figure out how to deal the insane amount of damage to the Egg Wizard. So, anyways, and one of the subjects when it comes to the forms of Splatoon 3 actually, also out of nowhere, I was assuming about the fact that the Sora amiibo, for the likes of the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate lineup of amiibos, that basically though, I'm almost assuming that's going to be the true definition of the final amiibo that's been listed. Well, it turns out there's going to be more amiibo coming, thanks to the forms of Splatoon 3, our Grand Festival is going to be coming. So as a result, they're going to be bringing us not 1, not 2, but 4 new amiibos. So as a result, specifically for Splatoon 3. So yeah, no wonder why. That's almost assuming about the fact that the amiibos is not going to give up just yet. Unless assuming about the fact that they'll try to able to actually bring another range of amiibo for the likes of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom or something. But we'll have to wait and see what happens in due time. Especially concerning for the fact that we're still on July after all. And speaking of which though, it's about the fact that we've only got about 2 more days to go until the Paris Olympics 2024 is going to be on its way. So because of that though, or to be more specifically 2024, so if you really want able to call that as an alternative, but that's besides the point. So anyway, so let's just go ahead and keep on reflecting specific projectiles back at Egg Wizard, and I do need to bring some more rings just in case, about the fact that every once in a while I do have to able to keep on switching between both Sonic and Blaze for a little while, and make sure you have to dodge that specific meteor rock right there. What Egg Wizard just somehow managed able to cast onto you? Well, because as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that if we do get hit or something, obviously though we'll lose a bunch of rings or something. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way though, and this is where we come to a point where we now ended up on the second phase of the fight, where basically though it's about the fact that, as you can tell, the Egg Wizard decides to able to actually go ahead and unleash that particular jeweled scepter for the sake of the forms we're trying to able to actually brings us a little bit of a wiggly flamethrower formation. So no matter what though, is about the fact that it can be pretty easy to dodge, unless if there are certain rings that we do need to collect sometimes. But luckily though, just like in Sonic Rush, that if you do get hit by certain hazards or something for that particular attack, basically though you're able to actually do not lose any of those rings. So you're able to actually get stunned for a bit, and as a result we're able to actually get ourselves the invincibility frames. Whilst unlike in Sonic Unleashed, for that particular final boss, it gets with the forms of Perfect Dark Gaia, in the forms of in the Eggman Land in general, that apparently though, I made a mistake from earlier about the fact that I accidentally say Dark Gaia Phoenix, because that was actually obviously the boss fight in Chunan. So I might have able to actually made several mistakes sometimes, but I do apologize at this point, folks, especially because concerning for the fact it's been about 2 days ago since I actually have last played this game for sure, but potentially speaking of, it's about the fact that we've only got about 2 more days to go until the, like I said before, the Paris Olympics 2024 is going to be starting for the sake of the opening ceremony. And as far as I'm usually concerned about this as well, about the fact that I believe we've only got about, I would say, 8 more days to go until we are about to be approaching on to the 8th month, which appears to be August. So anyway, so now we'll move on to the third and the final phase of the fight, as far as I'm aware, because obviously though, the music itself is now going to get speed up at one point. So as a result, no matter what though, all he does now is about the fact that he's now starts summoning these spiky missiles at us. So because of that though, again, it's a bit chaotic sometimes though, especially because concerning for the fact that unless if you do need able to carry the insane amount of rings with you, but thankfully though, about the fact that every time whenever you go into the next phase of a fight or something, basically though, about the fact that the boss health meter decides able to go a little bit more smaller as far as everything else goes. So, and I believe that pretty much does it for the deep core zone. So, relatively speaking, despite the fact that you probably already know about the fact that I somehow failed once on the first attempt, but that's just mainly because I didn't pay attention to the forms of specific attacks. But, oh well, no big deal. So let's watch this particular cinematic right there. Even though I'm also able to talk over for this, just like the forms of how it does it on Sonic Rush. And it looks like no matter what though, Marina Raccoon decides to able to help us this time. So, at least that's something, I suppose. And it looks like it's now Sonic's time to able to do the final blow. Yep, just right through the actual specific glass dome, and as a result, again, it kind of reminds me of the forms of the actual final, you know, the actual final blowouts for the sake of the forms if you're trying to finish off, you know, perfect Dark Gaia. So, except the fact that, obviously though, that unlike in, Perfect Dark Gaia himself, that my goodness, every time whenever we do manage to see him transformed, or to be more specifically when he's come towards his death, my goodness, it's actually a lot more gruesome more than anything. So, and unfortunately though, just like in Sonic Rush, my rank performance in terms of the forms of the extra zone itself is pretty rough, especially because if you can tell, we somehow got ourselves the C rank. So because of that though, yeah, it's not great, but regardless of such though, we did somehow manage to able to not only beat Dr. Eggman, but also Eggman Nega, all in one particular, well, bundle as part of the forms of the Egg Wizard. And straight to the point, we can now able to actually go back into the real home. So no matter what though, is about the fact that, well, yeah, nothing else I can really say about this, I guess. So, anyways though, also as far as I'm aware, about the fact that no matter what though, about the fact that I felt incredibly sorry for one of those YouTubers out there, which appears to be Nintendo Collecting YouTube channel, that if you probably already know what I'm talking about, that Nintendo Collecting did a fantastic job when it comes to likely not only collecting physical game versions of several franchises ranging from Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Kirby, Donkey Kong, among all others, but also about the fact that he did somehow manage to able to do a ton of unboxing videos, ranging from a whole bunch of amiibos, alongside with the forms of specific special editions for certain Nintendo Switch games, ranging from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, alongside with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom or something, and also among all others as well. And even at one point about the fact that I do remember that back in Journey forms of about a couple of years ago, sometimes he managed able to actually play through a whole bunch of Mario games as part of the marathon, in addition to Zelda marathon as well, to able to actually go through all of those specific games in a chronological order when it comes to release by release, for the sake of the forms of the charity for specific hospitalities for certain situations around the world. So I thought it was very intriguing to able to know about the fact he did all sorts of stuff in the past, but it's kind of unfortunate for right now that unfortunately though Nintendo Collecting has been hacked. So similar to the forms of how it does it in Game Explain back in Journey forms of it in the beginning portion of the year. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer though, especially concerning for the fact that I do seem to be able to really enjoy watching the forms of Nintendo Collecting videos, because obviously though he got a whole bunch of stuff for Nintendo themed related stuff, and occasional Sonic stuff here and there as well, but not by much in comparison to the forms of not only, you know, like I said before, not only for Mario, but as well as Donkey Kong, and you name the rest. So, either way. So, apart from those side things though, yeah, it kind of sucks about the fact that that particular channel got hacked. So, yeah, it looks like about the fact that it looks like that MicroStrategy is once again going to be involved with this particular solution, just like the forms of how it does it for Game Explain, since in, you know, the beginning portion of 2024, as you probably already expect. So, yeah, it seems kind of weird about the fact that, well, obviously though, unlike the original Sonic Rush, that Cream the Rabbit was not even appeared in this game this time around, because obviously though, Cream the Rabbit has been replaced by Marina Raccoon, and relatively speaking though, this will be the true definition of the final time to able to actually see Marina Raccoon, which I will have to be honest here, I'm still not overly big fan of Marina Raccoon, not only for her personality, but it's also about the fact that she's incredibly bossy and rude sometimes, and even she does some clumsy things that we're not supposed to attempt to activate something. But beggars can't be choosers, I guess, especially because as a result, we are now heading back home into our, Sonic's real world. So no matter what though, thanks to the forms of the power of these Chaos Emeralds and all that stuff, and even Soul Emeralds as far as I'm aware, that way it'll able to actually transport us back to our real world. So potentially speaking, it's about the fact that it may look like that Blaze's dimension is now safe once again. So yeah, relatively speaking, that's as far as I can try to able to explain about that. So, anyways, though, apart from those side things, though, I suppose there was technically one last thing I want to mention about before we get into the final thoughts of Sonic Rush Adventure. Well, better late than never, I suppose, yet again, except the fact that, those of you probably wondering, yes indeed, the original version of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, or Paper Mario RPG, for those of you who lived in Japan, on the GameCube version that is, well, apparently though, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door on the GameCube has recently celebrated its 20th anniversary recently, so because of that, well, happy 20th anniversary of the original game's release of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door for the Nintendo GameCube. And while looking back on it though, especially now we've actually got ourselves the Switch remake, I still classify about the fact that Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is overall, without a doubt, is one of my favorite RPG games I've ever played. Not just for RPG games, but for Mario games in general, because, storytelling is still great even to this day, and especially noticeable with how improved the combat system plays out. And not to mention though, several of chapter themes are very unique, especially with chapter 3, chapter 4, and much more. So because of that though, yeah, you should probably still recommend getting Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, especially since that we've now got the Switch version now, so I suppose you can probably able to go for that alternative version of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, especially concerning for the fact that every nowadays, the original GameCube version is gonna get extremely expensive, even with box and manual and all that stuff, like a complete copy or something like that. So yeah, best assured about the fact that you should probably able to still try to recommend playing through the Switch version, which I'm pretty sure about the fact that a lot of people seem to do nowadays, especially that, thankfully you can now play the game on the go, which is fantastic for its own right. So, but either way, and yeah, nothing else I can really say about it. So, with that being said, folks, that was it for Sonic Rush Adventure. And what's my final thoughts of Sonic Rush Adventure compared to the forms of how it does it in the predecessor, Sonic Rush? I will say, I really do enjoy this game. I mean, sure, it does have some flaws for sure, ranging from the likes of Grinding Fest, where it comes to grabbing certain materials and all that stuff in order to able to progress. But apart from those side things though, this game looks fantastic, even on the Nintendo DS, especially concerning this game came out in 2007. I will say I can easily recommend playing this game, and it's especially noticeable because, well, the story itself is pretty interesting, because obviously we ended up in the Blaze's world, as opposed to the forms of how it does it for the actual space-time continuum, or, just any other, like, time travel stuff here and there. In addition to that, the gameplay plays pretty similar to the forms of how it does in Sonic Rush, which I still enjoy even to this day. And the graphics itself looks really amazing. Even on the Nintendo DS, it looks really dang good of how colorful and vibrant it can be. And on top of all that stuff though, every single character models looks great. Even with Sonic, Tails, and Blaze, as well as the forms of Marina Raccoon, despite the fact that, as I said before, her personality is pretty annoying. So, and also the soundtrack is magnificently amazing, especially because I somehow managed able to listen to the boss themes a lot more, mainly because I will admit though, I do enjoy listening to the regular boss theme in this whole entire game. So either way though, because of how intense it was and how energetic that can be, and Also, the controls are once again pretty spot on, especially concerning for the fact that this game heavily utilizes touchscreen for the majority of some parts this time around, whilst unlike in Sonic Rush, that the stylus can only be used for the special stages, but that's all there is to really think about it. So, but either way, and like I mentioned this before about the fact that this game is not perfect by any means, but it does have like only 2 issues I have with it. Like, for instance, is about the fact that I feel like grinding for certain materials for the sake of story progressioning can be tedious at times, especially how to keep on replaying for the exact same stages over and over again. But with the forms of improvement of my you know, getting ranks and stuff like that. And on top of all that stuff though, like I mentioned this so many times already, I feel like that Marina Raccoon is the most annoying things in the world. So, yeah, apart from those aside things though, yeah, this game is amazing. Especially while looking back on it though, after for about, let's just say, I would say since 17 years ago actually, that you should probably still recommend playing this, especially noticeable if you're trying to go after the physical copy. Well, it's actually quite cheap nowadays, especially with complete in-box and everything. So yeah, that's actually, you know, pretty much expected when it comes to likely for certain Sonic games to be released on the DS nowadays. So even for used condition copies and all that stuff. So either way, I highly recommend Sonic Rush Adventure. This game is fantastic. So, yeah, with that being said, folks, is about the fact that pretty much does it for our Let's Play of Sonic Rush Adventure. And this is me, Ray the Flying Squirrel, from the likes of the Mexi Toys. Up next, in turns the forms of the entire Sonic retrospective of Let's Plays, we are about to be tackling through Sonic Colors on the Nintendo DS. So, as a result, that game is going to be coming up next. So, we're not exactly sure when that's going to happen exactly, but you might as well stay tuned for that during the later portion of 2024. So, yeah, that's what I can really say about it. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this Let's Play. Not sure I do. So, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.